Greetings all, it is I, the Theosaurus Rex, for our third and final installment of the week of Riding with Rex. Today, on my way home, I'm going to talk about anonymity. But first, I'd like to once again shout out the Christian Commute for giving me the idea to do this. Seth Dunn and the Christian Commute are a great... I don't agree with everything he says, but he's a great expositor. So you should definitely check him out. But anyway, he drives home, does it in one take. You get to hear all the fun stuff, any people cut him off, whatever, and he just posts it up there. And that's kind of where I got the idea to do this. So today, in light of some, in my opinion, troubling things that have happened, I got to meet up with Seth from the Christian Commute, and we had recorded a 30-minute or so podcast collaboration. However, somehow, I apparently did not record it. And I got the last 10 minutes of it, so I don't know how that worked, but it is. It's raining today, so if you hear the rain fall, then that's why. But today we wanted to, there's a situation that happened. So Seth writes for, and I'm kind of summing up what we had kind of talked about. Seth writes for a blog called Pulpit and Pen, in addition to his own thing, gsethDunn.blogspot.com, I think. And he writes for Pulpit and Pen, and Pulpit and Pen is a quote-unquote discernment ministry that is run by a gentleman by the name of J.D. Hall, and they've got a lot of things. And J.D. is he's a pretty smart guy. And he has some good points on a number of things. He's very, very conservative. He's very Calvinist. He is very cessationist. He's almost to the extreme in many ways. So apparently there's a gentleman who goes by the moniker of Calvinist Batman, and he poked Pulpit and Pen a few times more than apparently they thought was appropriate, and so they decided they were going to dox him. And for those of you who don't know, doxing is when you give out private information and release it to public that would not easily or normally be obtained on somebody. And typically it happens with malicious intent against their wishes. So what Seth and I were talking about is kind of some of the pros and cons of anonymity on the internet. I mentioned and talked about how, for like what I'm doing, the reason why I choose to be anonymous is because I'm going with more of a I deal a lot in politics as well as theology as well as philosophy, and currently we have a very dangerous climate when it comes to politics. Unlike where when the people religiously had to write under a pseudonym because of the religious persecution that they might face, because of the lies, the slander, attack by the Pope, excommunication, stuff like that, where or even death, like Servetus with John Calvin, people had to write under pseudonyms. Soren Kierkegaard, one of my favorite philosophers, wrote under pseudonyms. And so now politically, when you have the social justice warriors, when you have the third wave feminists, when you've got all these different people who, the Antifa, whoever, they don't do well with opposition. And so as you call them out, you look at some of the things that have happened. So like when Mark Driscoll got on the wrong side of them, you look at Bering, you look at a bunch of other people, Sargon of Akkad. Now he's able to show his face and he's able to do stuff, and it's really become kind of like their moniker, their not necessarily character, but it's kind of just become their brand. But initially it was done for their safety, the safety of their family, the safety of their jobs. Thunderfoot has people called up a whole bunch of stuff. When Communism Kills got out there, and when she was doxxed, a bunch of things happened to her. A lot of times what happens is, though, the doxing is kind of, it's like, okay, well, so all my information's out there, what can I do? Or whatever. It's not terrible, but it's not beneficial. And like one of the things for me, I don't tell. So my family knows who I am. A few close friends know who I am, but it's not something that I'm broadcasting out there. And because of that, I don't have the support of my friends and other people who agree with me when I post, whether it be political or whatever, or religious on my Facebook. They don't get that. And I don't get their support, which doesn't help me in a number of things and getting views and that kind of thing. So, heck, I don't even follow myself. And so I want to keep those degrees of separation. So anyway, now the counterpoint to that is whatever you say. Well, first off, then we both agreed that sock puppet accounts, or when you're two-faced, that's wrong to begin with. You shouldn't go and create a false anonymous account where you go in there and you're just the rudest, most terrible person, and then in real life you're like, hey guys, I'm super nice and I get along with everybody and stuff like that. That's deceitful, that's disingenuous, that's wrong all around. Creating sock puppet accounts, that's also wrong, right? So I need gas apparently. What we're specifically focusing on is the idea of having an anonymous account for whatever reason. You just don't want your details out there. Whatever. Now, I do see that, I think in terms of theology, since that's not as hostile of an area, I don't see a reason with being as anonymous if you're just talking about theology. And I've called people out on my personal account for bad theology and stuff like that. So now Seth's argument is that not being willing to, he started off, I really missed it, like when him and I co-podcast, it's worked really well, but basically he argued that that's the whole John Hancock thing. If you're going to do something, put your name on it and be proud of who you are, what your opinions are, what your beliefs are, and just go with it. Don't pussyfoot around. And if you're not willing to put your name on it, then why are you saying it? Why are you engaging in that kind of in that thing? Why are you sharing your opinion if you're ashamed of it? And I think that's a really good point. But it goes against the thing. So if I personally, I don't want to be doxxed. I do not like being doxxed. Or would not like to be doxxed. I don't want to have any kind of repercussions for some of my political views. Not that I believe any of my political views are wrong. Not that I'm a neo-Nazi. Not that I'm alt-right. But you get someone that goes in there and says, well, I'm not a feminist. I've spoken out against feminism on here. Well, you go in and say I try to get a job. They say, oh, well, this person, he says he's not a feminist. And if that individual who's looking doesn't understand, doesn't listen to my point, say, well, I don't agree with the label, but I support women's equality of opportunity with men. I support women doing all sorts of stuff. They might think, oh, well, this guy's a sexist. Oh, this guy doesn't support Black Lives Matter. This guy's a racist. Without getting into the nuance of the issues. And that could hurt people. So anyway, the other part that Seth brought out was he brought up the point that having your name to something is a form of legitimacy. He spoke about someone that they had been talking about, Greg Locke, I think it is. And by him saying, look, I've done this research, boom, here's what I've posted. It has my name on it. I have authority. Here's where I can actually show you my degree. I've done this and this and this. You can be taken more legitimately. And that he and other people that he affiliates with, if they see an Anon account, they don't even really go back and forth with it. They don't even respect it enough to do stuff. And I do feel that happens a lot in my case, but I try to make sure the arguments stay pretty succinct. The other thing he brought up is the fact that when Anon accounts go and they can attack you, well, you can't really face your accuser. So, as an example, with the exception, I don't know everything that happened between the two, but I'm just going to use the thing of J.D. Hall from Pulpit and Pen and the Calvinist Batman. If Calvinist Batman did something to offend JD, if JD had known the person, Calvinist Batman's name and stuff like that, then he could have gone to Calvinist Batman, spoken to him one-on-one, could have gone, if it was a church matter, he could have gone to the church elder and said, hey, are you aware of this? You know, not going to, not having your name doesn't allow you to be able to see, like, okay, does this person go to a church? Or do they have spiritual authority over them? Can you appeal to that spiritual authority if there's an issue? So I really feel there is a really good pros and cons list. And finally, I think the last point that Seth ended on was the idea that he's got kids and he wants his kids to be able to look up and say, hey, look, this is what, not in an arrogant way, and we did talk about that, about what isn't just kind of putting your name on it so you can become famous or whatever. But he wants us to be able to look up and say, hey, look, kids, here's what I wrote. You know, I stood up for what I believed in. I did what I thought was right. And I let the chips fall where they may. And I think that's a pretty good point. So, where are we at? What's going on? What's the choice? Well, I think for me, it's one of those things that I thought long and hard about it. I decided to make the Anon account and to just go with it. So I am St. Theosaurus Rex on Twitter, St. Theosaurus Rex, TheosaurusRex on Twitter, and I've been really active on there. So if you and I think with my tax return I'm gonna get a subscription type thing to the Podomatic, so I can send out those podcasts and be pretty consistent in this, upload the kind of the audio files of everything. Anyway, so with that, I'd like to know, what do you guys think? What do you think about the whole idea of doxing people or being able to confront people and know who they are? Do you kind of agree with Seth? Do you kind of agree with me? Where are you? Let me know. Let me on Twitter. One last thing I will bring out and mention is the fact that I don't feel that even if discussing politics or discussing religion or theology and whatnot, if you're dealing issue to issue, I don't think it really matters if the person's anonymous or whatever. You know that there's a person behind it, and that person is typing things, and that person is bringing up an idea. And so if you're combating ideas, if you're exchanging ideas, if you're talking about things and staying away from the personal insults and any kind of personal stuff, I don't think it really matters if someone's anonymous or not. Because if we're talking about a topic, I don't know, let's say women pastors, then whether it be me or whether it be Theosaurus Rex, we're going to be saying the same basic things. And those arguments stand and fall on their merits based on things. So whether or not, it shouldn't matter if I can send you a picture of my degree so you can see, well, I have a master's of divinity and you don't. Like, that's not a big deal. It shouldn't matter. So anyway, I'd like to hear what you guys think, and thank you very much. I will see you guys next week. This weekend I do plan on putting up another video. I've been really kind of going back and forth thinking about stuff, and I feel it's going to be important to get kind of into this all again. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you very much for listening, and definitely check out Seth Dunn. He's got the Christian Commute, which is christiancommute.podomatic.com. You can check him out on Twitter at gseth_dunn, DUNN, or you can check out his blog at gseth_dunn at gseth_dunn.blogspot.net. I think they're .net, not .com. Anyway, cool. I will see you guys later. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.